Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about the 5 steps to rewire a thought pattern. I call it the reset method because it's easier to remember. It's science-backed and also based on my coaching. How you change a thought pattern and the behavior that will follow. There's a moment when something happens and you have an automatic response. That response isn't entirely fact-checked before it happens. Sometimes it keeps on recurring. Sometimes it can really get in your way. I've had a client come to me with this, and depending how deep the automatic response is, it can actually be changed quite easily. In this podcast, I will use a simple and clear example. Imagine you get a message from your boss. Can we talk this afternoon in my office? That's it. Without even thinking, your heart starts to beat faster, you feel nervous, like a nervous energy, and something grabbing your throat. It's a full body response. Your brain immediately goes, oh my God, I must have done something wrong. But this reaction isn't really about the message. It's about what your brain has been trained to do. And the outcome of this message doesn't have to be that reaction. So let's break this down with neuroscience. And then I'll walk you through how to reset the whole reaction. Why your brain does this? Your brain wires itself based on repetition. Every time you think the same, especially an emotionally charged thought, neurons fire together. This is called habit learning. Neurons that fire together, wire together. You probably have heard of that. If you ever felt unsafe, judged, your brain can build a shortcut. If my boss wants to talk, it's probably bad. That shortcut becomes automatic. It can come from something that happened in the past or even from something you once said to yourself. But here's the good news. Your brain is plastic, not like a plastic bottle, but like a piece of clay. It reshapes itself based on experience, practice, and attention. This is called neuroplasticity. You can change your mental default and build a new one by thinking and practicing differently. Why does language matter? If you say, I'm anxious, you're rewiring that deeper into your brain. Your identity and anxiety become fused. But if you say, I sometimes feel anxious, you create space. You're no longer defined by the feeling, you're observing it. This shift from identification to observation changes everything. It activates a different part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, the part that's responsible for awareness, evaluation, and decision making. When the prefrontal cortex becomes active, your brain shifts from a reactive state to a responsive one. Instead of following an old fear-based neural circuit, you're engaging a part of your brain that can pause, reflect, and choose a new response. This is why observation, not identification, is so powerful. It puts you back in charge. So, the reset method. It's scientifically based. It's based on also the way I use this in my coaching, but I tweaked it a bit and I just generally called it reset because it's nice beginning of letters and make you remember all the steps. Okay, so what can you do when this message from your boss comes in? You use reset. The R is recognize. Catch the physical feeling which starts when you receive this message. Notice what happens to your body. Where do you feel this in your body? Where is like tension? Just sit with this and make a sort of picture of it. That you can recognize it the next time you have this reaction. Then think, what is the first thought that comes into my mind? For example, I must have done something wrong. make also a mental picture of that you can also remember this when it comes up again. The next thing you do is ask yourself, where is this coming from? Then we are at the E, examine. So you're going to question this thought. Is this thought true? Did your boss say, can you come into my office because I want to fire you? Or because you did something wrong? Or are you reacting to something that happened before? Was it a similar message? Are you insecure about your performance? When did this happen before? What is the actual evidence? And then you're making slowly the S shift. Interrupt the default. Ask yourself, what else could be true? Maybe your boss wants to praise your work. Maybe it's about your social security number. Or literally anything else a boss might ask about. Just checking the facts already shifts your thought. And then the E for engage. Now, based on what you found, choose a different response. You might say, I'm really curious what my boss wants to talk about. And you're not pretending you don't feel nervous. You're just holding on to curiosity too. We make little shifts. And then the T for training. Train your new reactions. It's like going to the gym to build a muscle and make it stronger. Imagine opening that message and choosing curiosity instead of fear. You do it again and again. Maybe you come again in a situation like this, or you think about it and you're trying to say to yourself, I'm curious about what my boss will have to say. What happens then is that the outcome can also be different, because can you imagine you come into the office of your boss and instead of being armed for that something bad is going to happen, you will come and say, hey, I'm so curious what you want to talk to me about. This is a whole different energy. With all this training and seeing positive results, how long does it approximately take to make a change? 30 to 60 days of practice. This is how long it takes to form a new neural pattern. Depending on emotional intensity and repetition, the stronger the emotional ties to the new response, the more often you rehearse it, the faster the rewiring happens. So if you really believe this now, this change will be so much faster. And it works also with this colleague that always says the same, that actually really gets you to the edge, that you always respond in a certain way and he responds in a certain way. You're in this loop of both having a negative experience. And imagine one day he's going to say that which you normally annoy, and you actually think, I'm going to react a different way because I'm going to try to train to think a different way. And then you react a different way, and your colleague all of a sudden reacts super nice, and the air is cleared, and you have a conversation, and the whole energy shifts. This is how powerful it can be. Even make a little shift. Most of the time, the shift is after you recognize there's a pattern because you had it before and you really made a mental picture of it. So you recognize, oh my God, I feel this bubbling feeling of anger coming up. And then you have practiced in your mind, okay, I'm going to say something different to my colleague. And through what happens after, this whole situation changes. And maybe you will not even have this anger the next time anymore. So be aware that things can change quite easily as well if you're dealing with another person. You can use reset on a lot of different reactions. Not only what happens to you inside, but how you interact with others, the way you talk to yourself. I'm also going to write an article about that, how to change that, because that's a very powerful one. Reset works because it aligns with how your nervous system encodes and updates memory. Over time, the old circuit will fade, and the new one becomes your new default. So you don't have anxiety. You're not afraid to fail. You're a person learning to respond differently. If you already make this step, next time you're like, oh, I really don't like this about myself or what I feel or how I react, you just say, I'm just a person learning to respond differently and do something about it. Reset will help you build that step by step from the inside out. This is not just a mindset, it's brain training, and it does really work. If you need any help with getting rid of an old pattern that doesn't serve you, change something, just send me a message and we take care of it. Have a lovely day.